Hello everyone, I'm here to discuss the most important current affairs of today from UPSC perspective. So without a further ado, let's begin. This was yesterday's question of the day. The correct answer is option number C, A, B and D only. So alcohol, petroleum as well as electricity are outside the purview of GST. Our first article for today says that RBI has raised an alarm about the rising NPAs. We do not need to remember any values that are given in the article, but just remember that the NPA of public sector banks is greater than the NPA of private sector banks. Also, the rise in the level of NPAs for the public sector banks is greater as compared to for the private sector banks. A notable point from the article is that consumer credit or the retail loans have fallen. And why not? Since we have just crawled out of the second pandemic wave. Let us discuss some of the important terms that are mentioned in the article. So the first term that I encountered was GNPA, that is the gross non-performing asset. For that, let us review what NPA or the non-performing asset is. An NPA is basically a loan that has not been serviced for a period of 90 days. That means the loan has not been repaid for a period of 90 days. Let us now go back to the gross non-performing asset. It basically refers to the sum of all the loans that have been defaulted by the borrowers within the provided period. The banks and financial institutions are required to set aside a portion of their income as provisions for the loan assets so as to be prepared for any contingent losses that may arise in the event of non-recovery of loans. So when we minus the provisions from the gross non-performing asset, what we get is the net non-performing assets. So remember this. Another important point to be mentioned is the SMA or the special mention account. Any loan account is classified into SMA 0 if it is not serviced for a period of 1 to 30 days. Likewise, if it is not serviced for a period of 31 to 60 days, it is classified as SMA 1. And for a period of 61 to 90 days, then SMA 2. This table here gives the provisioning norms. You can have a look at it. Another important term mentioned in the article was the capital to risk weighted assets ratio, which is also known as the capital adequacy ratio or CAR. CAR basically is the sum of all the capital the bank has upon the risk weighted assets. So we'll deal with each of the terms respectively. You need not go into the details of the tier 1 and tier 2 capital right now. Let us stick to capital. And talking about risk weighted assets, let us read about them. So risk-weighted assets is a banking term that refers to an asset classification system that is used to determine the minimum capital that banks should keep as a reserve to reduce the risk of insolvency. Banks face the risk of loan borrowers defaulting or investments flatlining, and maintaining a minimum amount of capital helps to mitigate the risks. Essentially, risk-weighted assets are the loans and other assets of the bank weighted to reflect their respective level of risk of loss to the bank. For example, the mortgages secured by residential property are generally considered to be lower risk as compared to the unsecured credit card lending. So basically, a risk-weighted asset is a loan or other asset of the bank that is weighted for the risk that it carries. The greater the amount of higher risk assets and loans that a bank has, the higher its risk-weighted assets, and therefore the higher the amount of capital that the bank must have in order to meet the minimum capital adequacy ratio requirements. Let us look at the norms of CAR or capital adequacy ratio in India. The Basel III norms, which is followed globally, it stipulates 8% CAR, but the RBI mandates 9% CAR for the public sector banks, and for the urban cooperative banks, it says 12% CAR. The next news is the UDICE Plus report released by Ministry of Education. The UDICE Plus report is basically a system of online data collection from the schools, and it was developed in the year 2018 and 19 to overcome the issue related to manual data filing in paper format and subsequent feeding at the block or district level. The headline says that in 2019-20, only 20% of the schools in India had internet, or rather 22% of schools had internet. So in 2019-20, the total students in school education from pre-primary to higher secondary have crossed 26.45 crore. This is higher by 42.3 lakh compared to the 2018-19 stats. The gross enrollment ratio at all levels of school education has improved in 2019-20 compared to the 2018-19 stats. Also, in 2019-20, enrollment of girls from primary to higher secondary is more than 12.08 crore. This is an increase by 14.08 lakh compared to 2018-19. The next article is a Supreme Court ruling on the panel investigating the Baghjan oil field fire that occurred last year in May 2020 in the state of Assam. So the Dibru-Saikhowa National Park was affected as a result of the oil field fire. You can see the national park on the map. It lies alongside the Brahmaputra river. Recently, another national park was formed in the state of Assam. So it was the Raimona National Park. It has become the 6th national park of the state of Assam. The other 5 national parks are Kaziranga, Manas, Nameri, Orang and Dibru-Saikhowa. The next article is an update that European Union, or rather the 8 countries of European Union, have allowed Covishield of India as a criteria to issue green pass to travelers. Another article says that COVAX, which is the Global Alliance for Equitable Distribution of Vaccines, has urged equal vaccine recognition. So while we are here, another important name that should be discussed is the Gavi. Gavi stands for Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization. Gavi is an international organization, a global vaccine alliance bringing together public and private sectors. Its goal is to create equitable access to vaccines. Its members include countries, WHO, UNICEF, World Bank, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, industrialists, and other philanthropists. The next article talks about the drone attack on Indian base in Jammu that took place on Sunday, and it discusses India's strategy to combat the drones. Drones are unmanned aerial vehicles. They range from 250 grams to over 150 kg. In India, the commonly known ones are the quad and hexacopters for civilian and commercial use. Heron drones are used for the military use. They can either be remote controlled, GPS based, radio frequency based, or automated. The first ever attempted drone attack was by a Japanese cult group, the Om Shinrikyo, in 1994 to spray sarin gas, but it failed. The attack on Sunday was not the first incident, but the first successful incident, as on May 14 this year, the BSF detected weapons that were dropped in Jammu using a drone. Also, in June 20 last year, the BSF had shot down a drone in Jammu. So how to tackle drones? The conventional radar system are not meant for detecting small flying objects. Many a times, they can misconstrue birds for drones. Currently, border forces use eyesight to stop the drones. But that is too difficult given the height at which drones may fly. So does India have an anti-drone technology? The DRDO has developed a detect and destroy tech for drones. It was deployed at the Republic Day Parade in 2020 and 2021 for VVIP protection. It has both hard skills, that is destroying a predator drone by laser, and soft skills, that is jamming the predator's drone signals. It has 360-degree range. But it is still not foolproof and operable at a large scale. Recently, US had leased 2 Sea Guardian Predator drones to India. On January 15th, on the Army Day, the Army showcased its Swarm Tech with 75 drones destroying simulated targets. So the drone technology, or rather the anti-drone technology in India, is still in the process of development, but we need to speed up as the enemy is quite ahead of us. Let us discuss certain MCQs. We have to arrange the given organizations in a chronological order. So DRDO was established in 1958, ISRO 1969, Atomic Energy Commission of India, 1948, and the Border Road Organization we discussed in a previous lecture of current affairs, 1960. So the correct order would be C, A, D, B. The correct option is option B. The next question is, the RBI is responsible for inflation targeting, forex reserve management, managing central and government funds, printing all notes and coins, promoting export of products, suggesting budgetary measures to the government. So option F is completely false, and that rules out option C, because the RBI does not suggest any budgetary measures. Rather, it focuses on its own monetary policy. The Government of India or the Ministry of Finance comes out with the fiscal policy. Option E is also wrong. Option B is correct. RBI manages the forex reserves or the foreign currency reserves of India, but it has nothing to do with the promotion of exports. Option D is wrong, because although RBI prints all the notes, it does not print the rupee 1 note. Option C is correct. It does manage the central and state government bank accounts. Option A is correct. It is the core policy of RBI to target inflation. So our correct option would be the one with A, B, C only. Option A is the correct one. The next question says, the Cabinet Committee on Parliamentary Affairs is chaired by whom? Correct answer is the Home Minister. The Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs is chaired by, the correct answer is the Prime Minister. So now we have come to the end of the lesson. Before that, we'll discuss the question of the day. Consider the following liquid assets: demand deposits with the banks, time deposits with the bank, saving deposits with the bank, currency. So we basically have to put them in a decreasing order of liquidity. This is a UPSC Prelims 2013 question. I would request you to give it a try. So that's all for today from my side. Do write in the comment section if you have any queries regarding a particular topic. Your appreciation may also be welcomed. Thank you so much.